Hey there guys, and welcome to another language breakdown where I take a video from YouTube and we look at it together, we watch it together, and I break down the language and take out some useful expressions, vocabulary, some things that may be difficult for you to understand. I've gotten some good responses and feedback from this series, so I'm really excited about it. And I've got a good one for you today. It's about the coronavirus. We're gonna watch a medical professional give his opinion, give some facts about the coronavirus. There is a ton of misinformation going on out here. I've seen a lot on Facebook and Twitter, just stuff to make you scared and stuff that really has no scientific or medical backing. Let's watch a true medical professional give his take on what the coronavirus is, and more importantly, what we can do to prevent it. And as always, we're going to break down the language. Let me get over here so you can watch the video. I'll put the video here, and let's get started and break down the language about the coronavirus.
Hello, my name is Paul Casey. I'm the Chief Medical Officer here at Rush, and I just wanted to take a minute to address a few common questions that have come up about this coronavirus or COVID.
First, I just wanted to take a minute to
address a few questions. I'm the Chief Medical Officer here at Rush, and I just wanted to take a minute to address a few questions.
I just wanted to take a few minutes here to address a few questions. This is a big one, but if you host business meetings or you present something or you have a team of English speakers and you want to get their attention, but you don't think the meeting will be very long, you just want to say a little bit, right? This is a great expression to use. It's a long one, but let's break it down.
Chief Medical Officer here at Rush, and I just wanted to take a minute to
first. I just wanted to take a minute, and then two, verb, to address. I just wanted to take a minute to address. One more time. I just wanted to take a minute to address some issues, right? Especially if you host business meetings or professional meetings, this is a very good expression.
To address a few questions, the Chief Medical Officer here at Rush, and I just wanted to take a minute to address a few common questions that have come up about this coronavirus or COVID-19 outbreak. So start just with a general overview of coronavirus. So coronavirus is really the cause of many common colds. What's a little different about
coronavirus is the cause of. Coronavirus is the cause of the common cold.
Coronavirus is really the cause of many common colds. What's a little different about this novel coronavirus is it's a common cold to which a lot of us have not been exposed across the world, and that's why you're hearing about a lot of people getting sick with symptoms of coronavirus. So when our immune system hasn't been exposed to this before, it can cause symptoms. It causes us to get, in this case, the most common symptoms are upper respiratory symptoms. So same as a cold, fever, cough, congestion you might experience.
So same as a cold, same as the pronunciation, right? The pronunciation is what gets you probably most of the time. Of course, if I were to say the same as a common cold, you'd understand that most likely. But he said, same as a common cold, same as, right? It kind of blends together and you're like, same as, what's the same as? What's that mean? Well, it's the same as, right? Same as a common cold.
Symptoms it causes us to get, in this case, the most common symptoms are upper respiratory symptoms. So same as a cold, fever, cough, congestion you might experience as well. And about 1 in 5 patients also develop some diarrhea with the coronavirus. Now, the great news is
1 in 5. 1 in 5. That's how we say like the ratio, 1 in 5. 1 in 5 patients, 1 in 5 people experience. 1 in 5 people, verb, right?
Cough, congestion you might experience as well. And about 1 in 5 patients also develop some diarrhea with the coronavirus. Now, the great news is that the coronavirus is actually quite mild for the vast majority of people that get it. About over 95% of people that get the coronavirus will just have a cold and nothing more than really a cold. There are
That's good to know, isn't it? It's a little relieving that most people, a vast majority, and notice when he goes into this, he says, now, when he say now as kind of a fluency builder, right? To transition when you're about to say something important and normally surprising, right? Like this is important. Now it's important to remember, or it's important to note. Now it's important to notice, right? He's about to say something important. Now is a great fluency builder to work into that.
That get the coronavirus, vast majority of people that get it, about over 95% is actually quite mild for the virus. Now, the great news is that develop some diarrhea with the coronavirus. Now, the great news is that the coronavirus is actually quite mild for the vast majority of people that get it. About over 95% of people that get the coronavirus will just have a cold and nothing more than really a cold. There are certain groups that we worry about that are a little more at risk for developing more severe symptoms.
There's a certain group or certain groups that we worry about that are more at risk.
Groups that we worry about that are a little more at risk
for
developing more severe symptoms, and that's that we worry about that are a little more at risk for developing more severe symptoms, and that's specifically those that are over 60 years old, those that have some other diseases, so those that are over 60 with diabetes, with high blood pressure, with heart disease. That tends to be the group that is more likely to get sick from the coronavirus.
That tends to be. That's a little softer way of saying that is, right? That tends to be the group that suffers blah, blah, blah. That tends to be something that's a little more severe. That tends to be something that's more extreme. You're not saying it's definitely. It's a good way to make it a little softer than definitely. It tends to be a good expression to learn and use. It tends to be something that blah, blah, blah.
Disease. That tends to be the group that is more likely to get sick from the coronavirus. But again, for the vast majority of people that we see with coronavirus, going to feel like a cold, even those that are seen here in the hospital would be discharged home for what we call home quarantine, or to stay in their room, stay in their house so that they're not spreading this elsewhere. So it brings up another good question as to how do we prevent the spread of the coronavirus? And really, the great news here is that just like any virus, we have to go back to the basics.
How to prevent the spread of?
It brings up another good question as to how do we prevent the spread of the coronavirus?
How do we prevent the spread of? If something spreads, like the disease spreads, or a rumor spreads, right? Or gossip spreads, it means that it goes out, right? It becomes bigger and more common, right? It spreads. Think of the idea of like butter or jam on your toast. We use the word spread it on the butter. So same thing, if that helps you paint a better picture. To spread.
So stay in their room, stay in their house so that they're not spreading this elsewhere. So it brings up another good question as to how do we prevent the spread of the coronavirus? And really, the great news here is that just like any virus, we have to go back to the basics. So the message we've been trying to carry forward, as did President Obama, is keep calm and wash your hands, right? Because these viruses, the only way to contain these viruses is really a lot of hand hygiene. So anytime you're touching surfaces, it can be spread by contact, it can be spread by people coughing as well. So really important to do frequent hand washing to prevent passing this on.
Do frequent hand washing. That's a mouthful. Do frequent hand washing. frequent, often. And I wonder if he's going to mention this little guy, our little friend, our hand sanitizer. This is called hand sanitizer. A teacher's best friend. Frequent hand washing. Wash your hands to prevent the spread of. You see how this language all works together?
Really important to do frequent hand washing to prevent passing this on. The one other piece that I wanted to touch on was what our coronavirus here at Rush. So
to touch on, another piece I wanted to touch on, another piece of information I wanted to touch on, also very good expression if you host business meetings, right? If you host business meetings, you learn business English. This is a good expression to know, to talk about. It's like talk about, right? Some other points I wanted to touch on. It's the same as saying mention. Some other points I wanted to mention, but if you don't want to use the word mention, some other points I wanted to touch on, right?
Piece that I wanted to touch on was The one other piece that I wanted to touch on was what our coronavirus here at Rush. So we have had, today is, I got to get my dates together, I've been here an awful lot. So March 7th, on Saturday, March 7th, we've had a single one case of coronavirus to date. There's been a number of patients that have come in that we screen as they come into the hospital, and we've said, boy, this is a good enough story that we think we need to evaluate you to see is this the flu, which is far more likely the case. About 29 million people in America this year have had the flu, so far more likely to be flu, or could this be the coronavirus? So
far more likely. It's far more likely. A really good expression, a really good, more likely, you probably know that. But then we add the adverb far more likely, or I guess the adjective, far more likely, far more likely. It's even more than more likely. That's far more likely to be the flu.
Have had the flu, so far more likely to be flu, or could this be the coronavirus? So we've had about 10 or so patients come through that we did that evaluation. In that evaluation, only one patient to date has actually had the coronavirus.
He said to date a couple times, right? To date. So he's the only patient to date to have the coronavirus. He's the only patient to date. It's the best thing. The best way to communicate to date means until now, right? To date. It's the best way to communicate to date. Until now, right? Up to now. To date.
The patient was seen in the evaluation. Only one patient to date has actually had the coronavirus. That patient was seen in the emergency department. As I said, like most patients, he looked incredibly well just with cold symptoms. We tested him. He was actually sent home for that self-quarantine. Came back later that night saying he was starting to not feel as well. So out of an abundance of caution, we put him up in our medical isolation room upstairs on the 10th floor. And
we put him up on. We put him up on. That's how he said it. We put him up on. We put him up on. Put him up on. Can you repeat that without thinking about the words? Put him. Put him up on. Put him up on. Put him up on. We put him up on the 13th floor or whatever he said.
He was starting to not feel as well, so out of an abundance of caution, we put him up in our medical isolation room.
We put him up in, sorry. We put him up on the 13th floor. We put him up in the isolation room. You see how prepositions get tricky, right? We put him up on the floor. We put him up in the room, right? The isolation room. We put him up on. We put him up in. We put him up in. But notice how we cut off that H. We don't say put him up in, put him, or put her. A little fluency trick.
Of caution, we put him up in our medical isolation room upstairs on the 10th floor and watched him up there for about a day or so. throughout the entire time, I can tell you he was completely stable. He was sitting up, texting with family, texting on social media, again, just with these cold symptoms. So we really played it just on the safe side, as this was one of the first patients to come in.
We played it on the safe side. We were safe about it, right? We took precaution. We played it on the safe side. We played it on the safe side. We played it on the safe side. We were safe. We were cautious. We played it on the safe side.
Symptoms, so we really played it just on the safe side, as this was one of the first patients to come in. I think all indicators are that we're going to see more cases likely in the Chicago area. The best things, again, we can do is really the hand washing, that self-isolation, trying to, if you're having any symptoms, this isn't a time to come to work if you're having a fever at home. And the final thing I'd like to say is that we have set up a number of resources. Most importantly, we have our rush.edu coronavirus page, and that we are keeping up to date with both the latest resources as well as questions. Any questions that have come up, we're trying to keep that page updated. So
any questions that have come up, any questions that have come up, right, that have arisen, that people have thought about, any questions that have come up,
as well as questions, any questions that have come up, we're trying to keep that page updated. So hopefully that caught you up with some of the information around the coronavirus, and we'll try to keep the communication going as much as we can.
So there we go. Some facts about the coronavirus. Nothing really groundbreaking here. Always wash your hands, especially if you ride public transportation, use public bathrooms. Have this handy, I'd suppose. I'm no doctor, but have hand sanitizer ready if you can find it. Not sure how effective the masks are. I've heard mixed reviews on those, but yeah, stay safe. That's all. Stay safe, be cautious, and like he said, and I'm guilty of this too. Like if I feel sick, I'm just going to work. I just go to work. Like I have to work, and like I'm not staying home just because I feel a little sick. And you gotta be strong. But now's not the time for that. So if you're a student, if you're a student, you're probably not watching this. But if you're a student, like a teenager, that's an excuse to stay home. Congratulations. If you're an adult, it's an excuse to stay home. Catch up on some language breakdowns and other videos. If you like this video and you like this idea, then send some love, smash the like, and hit the subscribe and the bell, so that way you can get notified every time we have a language breakdown or a lesson. If you're a business English student, boy, do I have, if you use English in your business, if you do sales or any sort of business training, negotiation, you talk to people on the phone, I have business English training for you. I'll put the link below. Not to go into too much detail about that. You can read and watch about that. But anyway, that's it for me. My time with you is over. Stay safe. Stay healthy. Come back next time. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.